Hey, Larry.
Hey, hello.
How are you?
I'm kind of short coming up here a little bit.
Kind of short.
Well, the screen on the laptop has better contrast and it's kind of tilted away from me.
Yeah.
Of course, then the camera's looking at the ceiling. But maybe you want to see the ceiling. It's kind of...
I prefer looking at you.
Got an astronomical picture behind me you can look at. Star that's blowing up. Just to remind us our... just to remind us our permanent situation. So how have you been?
I'm okay. I'm just putting this invite up on Google Plus so that people know that everything has changed. I'm fine, yeah. I've been working out a little bit, trying to get a bit fitter again.
Ooh, yes, I need to do that myself.
Yeah, it started to be really, really important for me. Looked in the mirror and didn't like what I saw. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, well,
Morning.
Hi, Mike.
Morning.
Yeah, it's good for your health too. That's why I need to do it.
Yes. And interestingly, so I started running basically because I can't find a martial art local that I like. So I just started running, and I started beginning that last week. And I figured I'd start running without my dog to first get fitter, so that the dog wouldn't kind of pull all the time. So after 5 days of running every day, I decide, well, now it's time to go with the dog. So I take the dog out. 5 minutes in and the dog is out of breath. I gotta basically drag it behind me for the next 35 minutes. And so the next day also, and now you can really see, I don't know how you say this in English, in French it's called courbature. It's what you feel when your muscles have worked too hard and you're kind of stiff and stuff like that, right? And they ache.
Right.
And you can really see that she has that now in her muscles, and she's like, I gotta stand up. It's very funny. So I'm gonna let her rest for a few days, and then I'll drag her back with me, because apparently she needs a workout more than I do.
Yeah, you have to work her up to it gradually, I guess.
Yes. Hey, Antonio seems to be able to make it this time. The usual knobs, Antonio knobs. Hey, Antonio. So, Mike, how have you been?
Great. I've been just noodling on the new version, as you probably noticed.
Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Cool posts you put on Google Plus about individual parts of the new setups.
Yeah, well, it's actually, we've always complained about how people can't conceptualize what the instrument is without holding it. And Workbench actually is a pretty good picture.
Yes. If people I suppose people still need to make the effort of diving into it. If you've never seen it, I can imagine it to be still a bit daunting.
Sure, but even just a first blush look at the diagram suggests that perhaps it isn't a MIDI controller?
Yes. It was a bit frustrating on Audio Fans, when I asked them to create a new category for the whole series of instruments that I mentioned, and they said, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, I like John Nolan. Was it John Nolan made the comment? Like,
yes.
You guys need another category.
Yeah, they do.
But it's cool that your review, by the way, thanks a lot for that, and John's also. It's nice. People can see something being posted as kind of formal review from users, as opposed to the only thing that they could find was some magazines reviews from the beginning, and then my review from almost 2 years ago now. So so I think it's definitely a good thing. I hope more people will do it for different versions for the Pico and stuff like that. So it's a cool trend to have set.
Yeah, it seems like the two of them up there already have said most everything in a short period you can say about the alpha.
Yes, but the more there are of them, the more it kind of gives validation to the opinion, if you see what I mean.
Well,
if there's only one guy saying it, then people say, oh, well, he's just a friend
of the
company.
I will go ahead and put the effort in the next week or so here to write up something myself.
Thanks.
Because basically I'm saying yes to everything they said.
Well, that's cool also.
But, you know, flying over a target from multiple directions is good for bombing raids.
Yeah.
You make sure you hit the target. And everybody says, that, even if they're saying the same thing, they say it in different words. And, you know, some people will hear one individual's explanation more clearly than another, even if they're saying the same thing.
That's true.
And plus, I can probably mention a little bit about integrating with like Ableton.
Yes.
Because I think that's a very powerful item also.
Yeah, just whatever you find important, and even if that overlaps with whatever someone else already said, as Mike mentions, you'll probably have your own wording for it with different emphases on different points. So, and I can see.
Yeah. Plus, we all come at it differently.
Yeah, you can see your Ableton controller in the background.
Oh yeah, that's by M Audio, and then right behind that, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, you can.
Right over here is the Launchpad.
Yes.
Which has lights on it, and it also does controller functions. So none of them are an Eigenharp. I mean, the Eigenharp is way by the best, obviously, but each one of these things has different aspects that have use depending on what you're doing with Ableton and MIDI and so forth.
Yes. Oh, God! I wasn't going to invite someone, and I forgot to invite. I just quickly invite this guy, Sudesh. Where is he?
Of course, we'd all like to see less MIDI, but right now that's kind of a big factor. If you want to integrate with certain things, you got to use MIDI at the moment for most things. Hopefully, in the future.
Let's see how this goes. Invite.
Actually, my invite is simply not working.
Okay. Let's see if that works.
Oh, I see. They want you to type it in here?
It's a bit strange. They kind of rearrange everything now, but it's going the right direction, I think. The integration of apps is interesting. Let's see where that is going.
Yeah, they don't load either. It just says an error occurred. How very helpful. I guess it is helpful to
know that an error occurred.
Dunk is online. Oh, nothing happens.
What kind of apps?
Okay, guys, this just doesn't work.
I can see the apps. Maybe it's just...
I can see the apps. They don't install. I can see the people I can invite, but clicking on them does nothing.
Oh, that's strange.
Let's
see. Add to this Hangout. Can I add this?
Well,
okay. So I just added the YouTube app.
I saw that.
I don't know how to use it though.
Well, when you click on invite, for me, it brings up a square that says invite others, and says start typing above, but there's nowhere to type.
Oh no,
and then on the right
whole different layout. It's quite nicely laid out actually, with suggestions of the last people I interacted with in pictures.
Oh, that's weird. Maybe I'm just not allowed to invite somebody to your Hangout.
That was my question.
Maybe.
I mean, it'll make some sense.
Maybe can I give you some different rights or something? No.
They change this so often that it's sort of hard to figure out, right?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I guess that's a good news thing.
Yes, I like the fact how quickly they're kind of evolving this.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be sleeping for a while, and now it seems to be all kind of accelerating again.
Do either of you have experience using Skype?
Yes.
Quick comment on it, or especially compared to Google Plus Hangout.
Well, I've only done Skype on a one-to-one basis.
Right, I think that's the basic Skype.
Yes,
is one-to-one.
It works wonderfully. Yeah, it works very well.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like that service. It also works very well if your bandwidth is kind of downgrading at a certain point.
Okay.
Kind of other services. I think Google Plus does a good job with that also. But
I think Google Plus it's always worked great for me so far. We've been doing it how many months now? Despite it's new and.
But other voice over IP solutions that I've had is always when there's some bandwidth issue somewhere, it becomes unusable. And I've never had that with Skype either. So yeah, I like it a lot. Also, so Antonio was able to add an app.
I saw that. Does that mean if I go to apps, I'll see it?
Yes,
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Mangling. I wanted to say, too, it took me a while to get used to the idea of green lights for the roots, but I really like them better than the red ones.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just what I preferred personally, and I was kind of thinking if I would go the next step, and when I want the fifths to be highlighted, I would put those in red.
Well, there's two reasons I liked it. One is when you play over it, they actually change colors.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen if they're red. Mm-hmm. And the second one is your eyes are a lot more sensitive to both the red and yellow color. Mm-hmm. So they sort of blur out. So the green dots look a lot smaller and more defined.
Yes. Yes, well, hoping to find time to make this customizable anyway, soon.
Well, we're going to get blue too, you mean?
No, I mean customizable so that people can indicate which scale steps they want to highlight and which colors. Yes. Well, you can...
Another day, another line of code.
Feel free to open up the Eigenharp and replace them, the LEDs.
Yeah.
Problem, no, don't do that. Because you'll need to recalibrate the whole thing. Even if you just open it and close it down again, it needs to go back to the factory to be recalibrated.
Mm-hmm.
Because
well, it wasn't on my radar to open it. Trust.
Just making sure that don't take my joke. No one takes my joke because it's being recorded, right? No one takes that joke as something to do.
Wouldn't want that. So what's with the apps here? I push the button and I see there's 8 things that show up, but they're all like Google things.
Well, you can add them and then collaborate with them together, I suppose.
Yeah, so in theory you can add the silly hats thing, but all I get is there was an error loading your app. That's all we know.
I just get a page that shows 8 different apps, little graphics.
Yeah. And then you can add them.
And then if you mouse over it, there's a little button shows up that says add this to the Hangout.
Yes.
So
yeah, but try clicking on this.
You really want me to?
Yeah, because I'd be interested to know if it works.
Because for Antonio it did work.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm being scaled in a different way. Huh.
Yes, you just lost about 30 pounds.
Yes, that's awesome. Don't need to go running anymore.
What am I doing here? I loaded something called Scoot and Doodle.
Yeah,
yes, you did.
That. You activated it.
So I'm the only person it doesn't like.
What is it? I'm drawing things on my screen. I guess that's what I can do.
No, you need to give it permissions. Okay.
There's a color chooser.
Okay, well, I can see you draw, but...
Okay.
Anyway,
somebody else is drawing now.
Oh, we can see the different colors about everyone's head, actually, there. If you look at the people.
I just have people at the bottom and drawing in the middle. I don't know how to get back to people.
Click on one of the people.
Or click again on the app. If you unselect it, then you get back to the people.
Okay, I clicked on Geert, and now he's there with a slight yellow line above his head.
Yes, that's because the app is running, and it seems that everyone has a different color to doodle with. So.
Okay, so much for that.
So I spent a little while setting up, and I kind of tried out every audio looper that's available as a plugin format, and I kind of set up now an audio looper and audio so that I can just real-time freeform audio loop while playing the Eigenharp without using EigenD's recorders, because I don't like the fact that they're tied to measures and tempo. So I can show that to you guys if you want to.
Yeah.
Which looper did you decide you liked best?
Ideally, I'd like to use Super Looper, but it's just too buggy. There's one thing that just drives me nuts, and I don't know why. So you can set up different loops and then kind of quantize them together and sync them based on the existing loops and stuff like that. But as soon as you take an existing loop as being the reference point for the sync points, then the first loop kind of gets corrupted, and it collapses down the stereo image to the left channel, and the first time it plays, the second time it's correct, and the third time is the first channel again, and so it's useless. I hope that they'd fixed that bug, because I had that about 2 years ago already, but that's not fixed. Then I tried the other ones. I also tried the Gustus loops, which does something weird. I don't know why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it kind of crushes the Eigenharp's fast thread. I haven't been able to identify why yet. It's not it's not like an application crash, but when it crashes the fast thread, it basically means that it does something from way too long. So it might be that at startup time it does something extremely expensive, and then if that is happening on what we call the fast thread, so that's the thread where actually all the real-time stuff happens. When that happens on that thread, then it can be that the application actually, so EigenD falls off the USB stack because it can't service USB information quickly enough anymore. Anyway, so that didn't work out. So I'm now settling on Guitar Rig.
Okay.
And it's got a built-in loop machine that works perfectly fine for me. The only thing that it doesn't do, which is a shame, is so you can build layers of loops and kind of undo them and redo them, but you can't have individual loop tracks that you kind of turn on and off, right? Which is what you can do with Super Looper.
Super Looper standalone, I think, actually works, but of course it's not very useful.
Yeah, you have to start routing it through Jack, right?
Yeah.
I'll have to try that, but I don't like setting something else up again and making sure,
I
everything
agree
is connected. And so.
That's why I sort of gave up on it, to be honest with you.
So, if you're okay with it, I'm going to quickly show what it does.
Yeah, that sounds great. Go for it.
So what I did was basically my initial plan held on. So I have my custom layout where at the bottom, you can't see the lights light up. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so the mode key is at this side now, the main mode key, and I've got those 4 keys are basically the keys that control my looper all the time. Right, so those are basically my loop keys, and what they do is this key arms the recording. If there is already a recorded loop, it will arm the overdub. So it kind of toggles between those based on an existing loop or not. This stops the recording, and if I double tap it, it deletes it completely. This undoes a layer, and this redoes a layer. So it allows me to build it back up and tear it down. So that's basically it.
Now, how is the Eigenharp talking to the plugin on those buttons?
I'm going to show that now. So, let me open the Workbench. Where is it?
So you've got that you've got Guitar Rig loaded as an effect AU.
Yes, but I'll show it right away here in the Workbench.
Okay.
Just putting it here.
Yeah, excuse me if I'm still kind of behind on the Workbench and EigenD stuff. I haven't done a lot of studying on it yet.
So, what I did was I have my So this is my custom setup where I've got all my audio units going into the console mixer. And then actually out of the master output of the console mixer, instead of putting that straight to the audio output, I put in this effect audio unit, which is basically guitar rig, right? So what it does is it takes the left and the right output and accepts those as the left and right input of the guitar rig plugin. And then the audio outputs of guitar rig are being sent to two locations to the audio interface output. So channels 1 and 2. Channels 3 and 4 has my alpha microphone on them, so it comes straight from the alpha instrument. So channels 1 and 2. And then another location where it goes to is to the headphones, the alpha headphones. So what have I set up here for the headphones is so I basically created how do you say this? Intermediary summer agent that basically sums two audio signals together in two channels. So I've got, again, left and right channels where I'm channeling into using, you see there's different channels 1 and 2 that you can use when you create connections. I don't know if I've already seen that. And so what I do was I created also on the console mixer a headphone send. So in these effect channels here, there's a headphone send, so that if I want to, I can kind of make something louder just for my headphones, which is typically going to be my microphone. And these headphones will then be sent back all the way to the Eigenharp Alpha here, to the headphone inputs here, left and right headphone inputs. So that's that part. So that's basically the audio part, right? So any questions about that?
No.
No. So how do I control it? So I'm using the Guitar Rig's MIDI bindings.
Okay.
So let me see how I can easily show this. So what I did was basically coming out straight out of the alpha keyboard here, right? I have this looper key group that's connected to it, right? And the looper key group basically only contains those 4 keys. And those 4 keys, so that I showed earlier, are not part of any of the other key groups. They're only part of the looper key group. And then basically I route that through a scaler so that I can get this being sent to the... Well, actually, I think I can remove that scaler now that I think of it. Let me check. Oh, no, you need a frequency. So it will send the frequency to that Guitar Rig audio unit, which means that for those 4 keys I basically get inside the audio unit as if you would be playing a regular instrument. You get MIDI notes being sent, right? Just from those 4 keys that are part of this key group. With me so far?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So, and as soon as those keys are being sent as MIDI notes by the audio unit it's through the audio unit to Guitar Rig, which is the audio unit here, then I can use MIDI bindings in Guitar Rig to actually control it. Let me see if I can share Guitar Rig.
It definitely helps.
If you don't hesitate if you've got any questions about this, because I don't know what's clear and what's not clear.
Well, I'm way behind both of you right now on Eigen 2 and on the Workbench, because I haven't got it yet and worked with it. I've seen you guys and done a little reading and so forth, but I'm still a long
Sudesh.
way on that one.
So what's happening here? So that's Guitar Rig. I don't know if you've seen that before. I should make it a bit bigger so that's. Let me see if I can. It's clear. So Guitar Rig basically has a bunch of utility tools here in the left component, so in the components category, where you have a loop machine. So this is actually, you can do a whole bunch of other things, of course, because it's called Guitar Rig. You can have virtual amplifiers, distortion and whatnot, a whole bunch. What I like a lot about Guitar Rig is actually its delay and echo section is very, very good. The modulation section also. So the loop machine is part of the tools category here. And basically the only thing what I did was to drag it onto here. We can only have one looper, so I can't drag a second one of it. So, but I have this looper here. And then you can, so those are the main controls. So this is record or overdub when you have already a loop recorded. Here you can stop or second time to delete it, which is same as what I said the key would do. And then here you've got the undo and the redo buttons. And so basically what you do is you right-click on it, and then you press learn. And then you press one of those 4 keys that send out MIDI notes.
Okay.
And it doesn't even matter what note they are.
Yes. So, and then it will learn that as being the controller for that particular button of the interface.
Okay.
And then I do that for those 4 ones, and then basically set up a looper. Let me just show you how it works. So I can just press. So I press that record key now.
You're still sharing the screen.
Yes, that's the purpose. So you can see the record button here light up. So I just press that key. And so now it doesn't matter because I set it on auto start here, this button this auto start button, and it will detect the incoming signal. It will look at that, and as soon as it hits a certain level, it will start recording. So now it's automatically looping this back. So I stopped the recording by hitting that record button again. Now if I press it again, it will go to overdub mode, right? And then I can... Then I can do undo and it removes a layer. I can remove the first layer also. And if I do redo, then I can kind of build them up again and start it. Oops. So here with this button I stop it, and then double tap will clear all the layers and I record it. So one nice feature also that I like about this looper actually is that it's got this open and save function. So you can basically export all the layers as audio files afterwards, which makes it useful to work with if you've done something that you want to keep. Then you can just export it and open it in your DAW and work with them or edit them.
Yeah, that's a nice feature, yeah.
And so apart from that, you can set it up as being in sync with a MIDI clock if you want to and stuff like that. You can also have 2 independent looped layers that you can switch between, but I'm not using that for now.
And I like the way you have those keys set up on the bottom of the Eigenharp to control all this. That's cool. It's
very convenient actually to have them there.
Yeah.
So Sudesh, I don't know if you've seen that, but let me just unshare the screen. So you just came in a little bit at the end, but I was setting up the Eigenharp Alpha to be able to use the 4 keys here at the bottom to actually use it as an audio looper through the guitar rig plugin. And so those 4 keys do that. So this records, this stops, and this undoes, and this redos. And that's basically what I showed in the interface.
Okay.
So Geert, if you were doing that with version 1.4, you would probably take one of the small key groups and do MIDI out, run guitar rig standalone with the audio through it via, I guess, either Jack or Soundflower if it works for you.
And I'll just create a new audio unit in Belcanto.
Yeah, okay. But if you really didn't want to do any of that stuff, you could actually do it with a factory setup fairly readily.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You'd probably get a little bit too much latency, though, because having to go out through the audio. So you'd have kind of double latency, probably, because the audio, if it goes through Jack, you've got the Jack buffer, which is typically also 512 samples that you have to add to the actual buffer of EigenD. Or if you use your sound card virtual channels or something like Soundflower, then again also, if it goes through your sound card, it has to first go back in again and use the guitar rig will then standalone also add another number of samples to its buffer. So I think that the latency might be a bit too much.
Well, the only setups I tried in 1.4 were just using the factory setups along the lines we were just talking about, with Soundflower before Lion, because it sort of doesn't work since then. And I found Superlooper worked, and the other thing I've tried is using it on my Pod HD 500, which has a looper in it.
Yes.
So I use that as the audio out,
Yeah.
and then I take that and go back in through my I/O.
Right. Yes. Yes,
That actually works fairly well. It's fairly quick.
I can imagine that. But there is, maybe you've never seen that, but in the factory setups, there are actually two send effect audio units that are available. So something you can do, for example, is to kind of hijack that and put guitar rig there and remove your so those instruments from the main audio and only send them through guitar rig from as an effect send audio unit, and then you get basically the same kind of setup as that I have here.
Yep, that'd work.
So
the interesting part about that discussion is we just named about 6 ways of doing essentially the same thing,
yes.
Which is sort of neat.
It is, yes. What I kind of like about that also is that, but I still need to explore that a bit, but let me share that window again. So if you've got the, can you see in the guitar rig window again?
Yep.
So they've got this these new sections here that have been added since the last versions, which have this master EQ and compressor sections that you can put at the end, and that allow you to create fairly minimal but interesting mastering decisions about your final sound. So it kind of can give you this little bit of shine and polish to the entire output of the Eigenharp also, that you can put that afterwards, which is kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, guitar rig. It's a bad name for it because it's actually a really good effects.
Yes,
suite.
The effects are awesome. I really like the effects in guitar rig. They're very usable. And so apart from that, so you can create very different things like crossover, process different frequencies differently, like create multi-band processors by setting here crossfades on a particular frequency, and then move certain processors. For example, this transients in a certain section, and they will only process transients. For example, you probably want to have this on the highers, on the high section. The transient processor is also quite good. So you can get a bit more sustain or less sustain on certain things. Anyway,
that you got that with the new version of Complete?
Yes. This is the basic guitar rig. They have other things that were added that you have to pay for additionally. Some special vintage compressor and limiter simulations. Can't remember which they are, but people say they're quite good, so might be worth looking into also.
Yeah, I've got about 3 licenses for guitar rig because it tends to come with things.
Yes.
And so, Larry, you'd have guitar rig. It would be interesting. I think you'd have a lot of fun putting your Shruti through it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I would imagine I would. And I just got a thing about a week ago, maybe a little bit more, from NI that said they've got an update to guitar rig. Need to go and get that.
And so these are things that I used to use before, but I might start using again. Is that you can set up these tape decks. So that's independent from the loop machine, where you can either play existing audio at input or at output, so kind of mix audio in before processing or after processing, but also record what you're doing with the post tape deck. So it kind of easily allows you to record your Eigenharp performances. And then sync them with the pre-deck or transfer it to pre and kind of start creating on-the-fly recordings with that. And then again, you can open them and export them and then use them in your DAW afterwards. So I'm thinking of actually setting an additional set of buttons up for those tape decks, because I can see them being very handy also, independent from looper.
Well, in some ways they are sort of a variation on a looper.
Yes. Because you can transfer between them, which is a neat feature. If you press this transfer button here, whatever you recorded in post will be sent to pre, and then start playing again.
So Geert, is all of this in honor of Escape Artist or Into the Trees?
It is.
How did I guess?
Well, I was already planning on doing that for quite a long time. And as I was looking into EigenD 2 and how to change, how to build a setup that corresponds to my usage of it, those 4 keys actually seem to be perfect for it.
What do you use to transcribe stuff, or do you just do it by ear?
By ear.
Okay. I tend to use Coda.
Oh, yeah.
Which actually works incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Among other things, you can just click on a time point and it'll give you the chord that's playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is actually sort of nice, right?
Yes. What I'm trying now with Escape Artist actually is I look at the video and I look at what she's playing on the cello, and I created a layout that's tuned as a cello. So I'm trying to play what she plays at the same location and see how it goes. Which is kind of part of the challenge for me. It's interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I spent a long time once upon a time trying to set up the alpha as 5 strings of a lap steel. Mm-hmm. But the physiology is just so dramatically different that the notes work, but the performance doesn't.
Mm-mm. It seems to me that most of it you can get. Apart from the interesting stuff that Zoe does with her bow while she taps on the strings, and so that's not something you can easily get. But the rest seems to work fine. There is only one thing which is kind of typical that you also get when you try to play the guitar on the Eigenharp, is that you don't have the open strings. So she does stuff like that, which is kind of
I guess you just have to motivate somebody to write Strummer.
That's not how Strummer is really going to work, actually.
No?
No. The design of Strummer is basically that you can have external inputs, which can be, for example, your percussion keys or your breath pipe or whatnot, and connect those to courses. And whatever is active on a course will be played as you use the Strummer. So if you use the breath pipe, you will kind of play all the notes on the courses. Right? If you use the percussion keys, and you can say percussion key 1 is tied to course 1, percussion key 2 is tied to course 2, and stuff like that. Meaning that you will start strumming the virtual strings that belong to the courses. But there is no concept, but it might be interesting to think about it, of strumming something that, a course where nothing is actually being played.
Well, Fingerer has that.
Yes, that's true.
So you really should be able to cobble it together, right? In fact, maybe you could just use 5 fingerers, 1 for each, for separate key groups, which are in effect the courses.
Maybe. It's a good idea to think about that. But I have to, to confess that I haven't yet to try out Fingerer. I haven't had time yet. I only know what it's supposed to do. So,
I know what I haven't been able to get it to do, but that's just me. I think after spending a fair bit of time with it, I think I'll wait for at least one more round of coding.
I can imagine. Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Or anything. The only problem I have now is if you spend a whole lot of time with something, and then you guys send out, version 41, it's all gone.
No, honestly, at this point, I think we're not going to make any major changes to the whole data flow anymore. So what I basically do, I just copy the setups.
Before you do the upgrade?
No, afterwards. I can show you how that works. Let me show you. So I'll just share my screen here again. It's actually, but this is still unsupported, right? For anyone that's watching this.
Yeah. Well, you're just going to show that the upgrades are in the library.
So if you go to your Yeah. So this is hidden in line, but so you've got an EigenLabs directory in your user's home directory. You see, yeah. So where you've got all the versions installed. And what I basically do is when you've got a particular version that you, so let's say that I just installed 42, and I already have setups from 40. I basically just take the setups after the upgrade and put them inside of 42.
Yeah.
That's all I do. And that's been working fine since 36 actually.
Okay.
I think that if we still make a change that that breaks that, we'll probably put it in the release notes. But I don't see any that is planned. But we still say that with caution. But that's basically what I've been doing because I spent quite a few hours building my setups also.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that that I'll make my utmost effort of even if we're not supposed to be able to upgrade automatically between setups, that I might spend some time in after hours to add the scripts in there just to make sure that my own setups upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I is this a new behavior? When I installed the latest release, the one that came out yesterday, it actually deleted all of the programs in the older releases directory.
Did it?
It did. I was quite surprised because I was going to go run 30. I have somebody coming, and I was just going to drop back to 38, and the programs aren't there.
No, that's not supposed to happen. I'll have to look into that. That's
now I'm running server, but I would have thought.
No, that shouldn't happen. So you say that this.
So if I go in my applications directory.
So this here at the bottom here.
Those are all there. If I go back to 38, it only shows the docs on mine.
Oh.
And it only shows the docs on yours.
Huh.
Yeah, that was my reaction. I went to click on the program, which I dragged down into the doc, and it just had a question mark on it.
That's horrible. Okay, well, we'll have to fix that.
Well, it was no big deal because in this case, it ran fine, so I just moved on.
Yes, it's not supposed to do that.
Oh, Sudesh, when was it released? 2009?
Yes.
Geert?
Yes. You know what? Let me just.
Okay, it's fairly new.
It is very new, yes, but it's been worked on since the year 2000, so it's under development now for more than 10 years. Yes. Let me just download the latest release and install it because I want to see this happening. It shouldn't do that. Thanks for telling me that.
I've distracted you.
Yes. That's not a good thing. One of the things we always kind of advocate is just install. Don't care about it. You can always go back to a previous version. It should.
Right.
Well, I have to snip this out of the recording. Let me see what it does.
So it is new, but it's not intentional. I was glad to come up. I'll try and come up with a bug a week.
Oh, God.
It's very helpful.
Yes, it shouldn't do that at all. That's horrible. Okay.
Well, that's one of the nice things about the Eigenharp. You can feel like you're a developer even if you aren't one.
Well, that's the experimental release.
Happen.
You have to put a big condition on that is that those are experimental releases. Those are not the ones that are stable.
Of course.
Because there's some people that have been making remarks about the experimentals as if they were stable. They're not. We try stuff out, which is kind of the point of it.
And in truth, I haven't had any setbacks since like about version 1.1.
Yeah, we'll try to be very careful about this. And maybe we did something too quickly this weekend. We tried to do it quickly because it was a big bug in the interpreter, basically. If you created a new setup with a newly created interpreter, then it would it actually start up? It would just be there, basically dead, until you saved it and loaded it in a new setup, which seemed kind of important to fix right away, because we're getting quite a lot of bugs related to that. People say, hey, this stops working, and this doesn't work anymore, and so.
Well, it doesn't go and deal with version 1.4, so my general practice is if the experimental one goes bad on me, I just load the last production one and move on happily go back to playing instead of
tinkering. Yeah. But they shouldn't do that. Okay, well, I'll file a bug report about this before I forget. Do that later.
So Sudesh, what's your interest here? Are you interested in the instrument? Oops, no sound.
I muted my mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, yes.
Yep.
Okay. First I got interested in the harpeggi because Rahman from the Indian musician, he started playing the harpeggi and he played it for a soundtrack from a song in a movie.
Oh, neat.
With
Dido, right?
Yeah, with Dido. And also he's got the continuum.
Yes.
He's into all these new musical instruments, but I think if you can send him your literature, you would be interested in this instrument too.
What's the name of this guy?
I'll just type it out to you.
Okay, no name should take that much typing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know him. Well, by name, not personally.
He is very much interested in any new musical instrument.
Oh, get in touch with him. Thanks for that.
Yeah. The other day I was listening to some old songs by some group. They had this, the tube was connected to a small keyboard and they were blowing into it and playing it with it. Like you got it for your instrument. For this.
And so what do you play? Do you play a musical instrument?
No, but I'm interested. I keep reading and seeing a lot of music videos, different ones.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I'm just writing up this bug report.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just saying that I'm not concentrated on that.
The other interesting personal, the musician I like is, he's from the Dream Theater, Jordan Rudess.
Yes, he's got an Eigenharp.
Yeah, he's also a versatile musician, I think. He wants to use every musical instrument available.
He wants to use it, but he doesn't want to learn it.
Okay. Yeah, they should make use of it, I think. Honestly, if they learn...
Well, he asked us when I'm just going to say this bluntly now, it's about time. He's had the Eigenharp for about 2 years now, I think. And he was asking for a long time to be able to just have it do what the continuum does. Is when you kind of miss a note, that it would quantize it to a fixed pitch until you move away from it. Which sort of makes sense in the continuous case, but in the Eigenharp, the keys are physically actually gravitating towards the center thanks to the springs. So it's basically a matter of practicing. If you practice by hitting the keys in the middle, then you play in pitch, in tune. If you don't practice, then you play out of tune, which is similar to any traditional instrument. If you practice violin, you start playing in tune, and it's up to you to learn how to play in tune. So he was
it's something similar to the sitar. In the sitar also you have many strings and many of those.
Yes. So he was kind of asking, to be able to magically, automatically play in tune.
Yeah, it's called turn down the pitch bend.
Yes, well, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to still be able to show that he could pitch bend, but magically play in tune from the beginning. And we kind of said, well,
he needs to practice some
got to
more.
practice.
Yeah.
It can't be done electronically.
It can be, but it removes part of the expression, right? It kind of...
Right.
Yeah, the physical expression.
Sometimes you want to have this little slur in the beginning, and sometimes you want to have a little wobble right from the start, and kind of removing that is a shame, because it can easily be fixed by just practicing a little while.
Yeah, and there's a couple of pitch bend curves which are nice to have. Geert, didn't you have a flat spot you built in at one point too?
Quite flat, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So by default, it's how do you say this? I'm tired today. I can't find my English words. It's a square. It's a square function, which is a little bit flat here. But you can set it to be cubic, and then it will be like very steep. And that one is actually very stable in the middle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the good thing about the Eigenharp is you can configure it any way you want. The bad thing about the Eigenharp is
you can't configure it.
Configure it any way you want.
You got it.
But yeah, I must admit I do tend to keep my pitch bend down about 2 semitones. Was it Dave Kay who was playing with pitch bend up around an octave?
Yes, it depends on the pieces you play. It's the same for me. It depends on what kind of pieces of music you play. Very fast pieces, I have to turn it down also. It's because then sometimes I don't hit the center of the note. But if it's something that kind of digs into the expression and works with the longer notes, then I think you can easily put it up to an octave.
Yeah, I was really looking forward, by the way, to Randy Brown's stuff.
Yes, it sounds interesting.
Well, he does some really nice cinematic, atmospheric stuff,
yes.
And I don't understand that, so it'd be very interesting to hear somebody talk about, how you go about building that kind of stuff.
Yes, but I think
anyways, he's on his way.
Yeah, he's working on it. He's figuring out the technical problems. Recording tutorials is really a lot of work. I haven't done one in a while, but I used to say, let's quickly record this, and of course it always takes the whole morning for like 10 minutes.
Then you have to edit it.
Yes.
Well, that's why I just stuck to those couple of screenshots. Even those, it's 15 or 20 minutes before you get a couple of shots.
Yes, and then you have to explain it, and you have to crop them right and put them up. It takes quite a while. I still remember when I was working other stuff before, when I was creating a tutorial for some tools that I built in Java, and I wanted to show some live coding tutorials, but I found it extremely boring to watch me code, because at the speed that you type is extremely tedious. So I actually created about a whole series of 6 tutorials where I went in and deleted the time between each key press. So I was kind of just going in and deleting snippets all the time, just so that the characters would appear instead of that took a whole week, I think.
Oh boy.
I think there must be some name for that illness, like autism or something like that would cause someone to do that.
Well, it's Autism Day today, so World Autism Awareness Day. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did those screenshots because, well, let me back up and say that differently. It's amazing to me how many people there are, sort of like the asteroid belt, going around Eigenharp, and they, at least every couple of weeks, I'll get one, a post from somebody saying, yeah, I'm trying really hard not to want one of those.
Yes.
Which results in me sending all sorts of information, right?
Well, basically, that's what they're asking for if they tell you that.
So that's why I did those screenshots.
Very good.
I'm still thinking of recording a little series of tutorials that I figured that people need, because I've been getting a lot of remarks from people saying, "Oh, is it that configurable? I love that."
Yeah.
And I've only covered 1%. So I'd like to show different stages. John has been talking about private rehearsal, public rehearsal, and public performance, and the different tools that are available for that. And each time just do one particular task in each tool, so that kind of gets the imagination going, showing what the possibilities are. Because I don't think people, without looking at a screencast of it, people that don't have the Eigenharp, I don't think they can imagine how deep it goes.
Even some of us that have an Eigenharp can't imagine how deep it goes. I'm constantly amazed by it all. I love it. But I also am a little intimidated, probably.
Larry, I really have found that Workbench has helped me immensely.
Oh, actually,
simply because it paints a picture of what's going on inside.
No, I've needed what Workbench has from day one, really, but it just takes time to jump into it and get started and so forth. So I'm just out on the edges here, but I've already seen a lot that I'm very impressed with, and it's also helped understand a little bit more about the way the instrument is working, laid out, conceptualized, all this type of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Geert, I won't promise to do this, but I'll maybe I should try and do a really stupid person's overview of Workbench.
That would be awesome.
See, one of the challenges for you, Geert, is
I'm too close to it.
You know it too well.
Yes.
So when you say to somebody, "Oh, just take the light output and install it to the key group," you said that to me a couple of times, and I went through about 3 hours of going, "Where?" And that's actually why I put those pictures up today.
Yes.
From here to there.
Yes.
But and I think a person who was embedded in it wouldn't think to take Workbench and say, like this square is actually the physical keyboard, and now you need to do this, and then you need to do that.
It's the same problem that a lot of things. If you know a technology too well, it's extremely hard to explain it to people that aren't familiar with it.
That's right.
That's where I found when I was writing books and stuff like that about programming subjects, I found that I wrote the best chapters about technology that I didn't know about yet, because as I explored it and learned it myself. Bye, Sudesh. Thanks for coming by.
Okay, bye.
As I explored it and learned about the technology myself, I wrote the chapters in the books about that, and I wrote things that were pertinent to people that were just also in the same stage as me, because afterwards you kind of lose all those tiny little steps that were difficult, but once the connections have been made in your brain, they seem so obvious, and you don't realize that there were like 100 steps to get from A to B, while now you jump from A to B immediately. It's strange how your memory kind of abstracts that afterwards. The fact that it took you so long to travel that distance.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll try that. I might even just ignore some bits of it, because one of the messages that I've taken from going through Workbench is, for the most part, if you don't understand what some particular bit is, you can pretty much just ignore it. I mean, it's probably a good idea not to cut a bunch of wires that go to or from it, but other than that...
Yes.
Well, that would be really helpful, I think.
Yeah, I'm not, well, I might just do it as screen captures and text. You know what would be fun, and maybe I'll do this, what would be fun is to do an iBook, one of the multi-touch iBooks with iBook author.
That might be fun. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's free, right?
Yes. That's your bell.
Yes, it's not your doorbell.
But it is my phone.
I don't have any bells.
Hello.
Mike, that iBook could then be played on any iOS device?
That's correct.
Okay. Any day now, I'm going to break down and order that iPad.
I'm not sure if you can see it under OS 10. Maybe you can. Maybe I'll do just a real simple picture book first, just some of my photography, just to see how it actually works.
That'd be interesting.
Well, the problem with this kind of project is you set out to do it, and the project itself isn't all that hard. But then you find you have 3 days of, okay, how do I do a screencast, and what software is there, and oh my, it didn't capture the sound, and whatever, right? It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I know.
So that becomes
I don't know if you saw my post on YouTube in G+, where I did very little demonstration of the Shruti output on a video.
Yes.
And I mean, I was learning all the stuff that I hadn't done before in video. It's a different camera, it's a different computer, it's a different editor.
Yeah.
I go, well, will this even work? I mean, and plus I wanted to hear how the on-camera mic sounded with the sound, and it produced the sound pretty good. You probably can't tell it from that video I did, but so that was all just kind of learning and proof of concept and stuff. Now I'm going to go back and do the real one.
Thanks, Antonio. And the answer, Larry, is no.
The answer to?
So maybe I won't start. Maybe I won't start with an iBook.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Mike, how do you get the sound out of your iPad? You have an iPad 3, correct?
Actually, sitting in this house right now is a 1, a 2, and a 3.
Okay, so how do you get the audio out of the iPad 3 into a better quality speaker than what's built into the iPad? I guess there's speakers built into the iPad.
There is a speaker built into the iPad, which is perfectly good for a bleep and a bloop, and nothing else.
Okay.
So it has a reasonably okay headphone output, and then there's a variety of solutions via the dock connector.
There are quite a few now regular audio interfaces, USB audio interfaces, that's starting to be iPad compatible.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, if you buy the camera connection kit,
right,
it actually has a USB port on it.
Okay.
And many things sort of work. The things that require power don't work, typically. Okay. Things that don't require power do. I know Geert and I have the Alesis I/O dock.
Okay.
I haven't tried that with my iPad 3 yet. Probably will fit. I wasn't happy with it, actually, with the iPad 2. I found it extremely noisy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the interface, yeah. The Alesis interface?
Yeah.
Yeah, people, I did a little research, and a number of people are having that problem, and there was a firmware upgrade, and also you needed to be running iOS 5 on your device, and I think that solved most of the problems.
Yeah,
but
the firmware upgrade
was a big problem.
Did solve stuff for me, yeah. The firmware upgrade did solve a bunch of IO
problems. Yeah, I noticed that when I was doing some research online.
Oh, well, good. I'll dig it out from the pile of stuff again.
Yeah.
But, really, if all you want to do is just hear a nicer sound, get a, the small headphone jack and plug it into anything you want to plug it into, and it's fine.
Okay. And that's stereo out of the headphone jack, I guess.
Okay.
In fact, I already got a bunch of those cables already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a soul that doesn't have a dozen of them sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've used them many times. There's somebody when I was running sound would come along and say, "Oh, I got this song on my iPod. Can you play it in the background while I'm talking?" I go, "Did you bring a cable?" "No." Well, I think I got one at home. Wait a second.
One thing that might work, I've never tried. I mean, it works great with Bluetooth headphones. I don't know if you could use it to pair the iPad directly with a Mac, I guess you'd just use AirPlay.
AirPlay, yeah.
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 Not
So
sure
Air. Oh God. Okay, I'm not going down that route into AirPlay. It's a long, involved story. It actually probably is the easiest way, the absolute dead easiest way to get your iPad into your stereo system.
Okay, right now I have my MacBook Pro and my FireWire outputs going to my audio interface, which is then going out to my 2 monitor speakers. You think I could actually transmit from the iPad into the MacBook Pro?
Yes.
And then use that audio system?
Yeah.
That's gonna be tricky to use that audio system, depending on the app that you're using. I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't have to go through the power. I mean, I like the concept of not having a cable.
Yes.
And then so I can move around my room where the speakers are, and I'm not tied down.
What kind of Wi-Fi base station do you have?
Forget the brand name. It's an
Okay,
802.
it's not Apple, right?
No, it's not Apple. No, it's 802.11n or something like that. Dual frequency thing.
Because their small base stations just directly support AirPlay.
Okay.
And they literally just have an audio out, which you would plug into your TV or sound system. Same with an Apple TV. If you're crazy enough to go buy an Apple TV, you can just say to your iPad, take all the audio and video and show it on my TV. Period. No wires, no nothing.
How is that compressed, Mike? You know what? This is AAC 128, I think, isn't it?
It's not that bad. It doesn't sound that bad, said the old guy whose hearing is probably not as good as it was. But then Larry and I ought to be pretty much tie.
Okay, guys, I
gotta
gotta
still
go.
hear pretty good.
Okay.
Go. I
Well,
see you again. This was This was over so quickly. Right.
Yeah.
It always
Wednesday,
is.
Larry?
I thought it was Wednesday at 2, except I probably won't be here.
Well, I'll start it up if you're not around.
Yeah.
So you guys switched back from Thursday to Wednesday again?
Well, Robin Ferry couldn't make Thursday and
Yes.
said, well, I guess I'm out then. And so we decided, well, we'll just move because none of us care.
No.
We moved it to Thursday because it was further from Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. But we're being flexible. This is the ever-changing second Hangout. That's okay.
Well, and honestly, if someone wants to have a Hangout, they should just have it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't see any big formal situation here. It's a Hangout, and that's why I like it.
But what's cool is that if everyone knows what time it is on, then you can get a bigger crowd. Basically.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I mean, it should be fairly easy through Google Plus and Gmail to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this, and join me if you want to."
Yes.
Anyways.
Okay, I gotta go, guys.
Bye.
Okay.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks for being here.